Welcome, my friend. You didn't just come to learn English today. You came for a story of power, of failure, of one nation's bold return to the battlefield of technology. As you listen, you'll grow your English. Word by word, chapter by chapter, you'll hear real vocabulary. Learn how to follow complex ideas in simple English. And feel the rhythm of spoken language, clear, natural, and alive. But this is more than language. This is the story of Japan's great comeback. A nation once on top, then forgotten. Now it rises again with one dream: to control the future, one chip at a time. Are you ready to listen and learn? Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Fall of a Giant. Once upon a time, Japan ruled the world of semiconductors. Yes, ruled it. From the 1960s to the late 1980s, Japan was the king. They made more than half of the world's chips. Not a small piece, not a little share. Half of it. Big names like Toshiba and Hitachi led the way. At one point, 6 out of the world's top 10 chip makers were Japanese. The world looked at Japan and said, "Wow, they are unbeatable." But today, something strange has happened. There is no Japanese company, not even one, in the top 10 list of semiconductor giants, not even in the top 18. What happened? How did the giant fall so hard and so fast? Let's pause for a moment. You may not realize it, but semiconductors are everywhere. In your phone, in your car, in your fridge, your TV, your computer. These chips are like the brains of modern machines. So, controlling this industry? That means power. That means influence. That means money. Today, this power is mostly in the hands of 3 countries: Taiwan, TSMC, South Korea, Samsung, United States, Intel, Nvidia, Qualcomm. But Japan? Gone from the top. In 2022, their market share was just 9.9%. That's down from over 50% in the 1980s. A shocking collapse. Now, you may ask, why? Why did Japan fall? There are many reasons, but let's focus on 2 of the most important ones. Reason 1: the American squeeze. In 1986, something big happened. The U.S. was angry. They said, "Japanese companies are not playing fair. Too strong, too cheap, too fast." American companies couldn't compete. So, the U.S. government put pressure on Japan. They pushed hard. And Japan agreed to a trade deal. A deal that limited Japan's role in the chip market. It was like, telling the champion boxer to fight with one hand. Reason 2. A strategic mistake. While other companies were changing, Japanese companies were stuck in the past. They wanted to control everything themselves, designing the chip, making it, selling it. It's called vertical integration. But the world was moving toward specialization. Some companies focused only on design, like NVIDIA. Others focused only on manufacturing, like TSMC. This made them faster, more efficient, and much more competitive. Japan didn't change, and slowly they lost. Lost speed, lost innovation, lost their crown. By the 2000s, Japan was no longer the leader. By 2020, it was far behind. People stopped looking at Japan in the chip war. They thought, Japan? That old player? They're done. But then, something happened. A new phone call, a new hope, a new dream. A secret project was about to begin, and it would bring Japan back into the game. Chapter 2. The American Pressure. It was 1986. The world was changing. The Cold War was hot. And technology? It was the new battlefield. Japan was rising like a rocket. Their chip companies were fast, cheap, and powerful. Too powerful. American companies started to panic. Intel, Motorola, Texas Instruments. They were losing market share. And fast. They went to the U.S. government and said, "Help us. Japan is killing us with unfair competition." The U.S. listened and took action. In September 1986, a big agreement was signed. It was called the Semiconductor Trade Agreement between the U.S. and Japan. At first, it looked friendly, like two partners shaking hands. But in reality, it was pressure, heavy pressure. The goal? To cut Japan's power, to open Japan's market, and to protect U.S. companies. The agreement forced Japan to raise prices on some chips, open its market to American firms, stop what the U.S. called dumping. Dumping means selling chips too cheap, so cheap that no one else can compete. The U.S. said, "That's not fair." Japan said, "We're just good at this." But they signed the deal anyway. They had no choice. America was too strong. After the deal, Japan's growth started to slow. Slowly at first, then faster. Then came the crash. The once mighty Japanese chip industry was bleeding, and nobody came to help. It was like a silent war. No bombs, no tanks, just contracts, pressure, and fear. And there was something else. While Japan was being pushed down, Taiwan and South Korea were rising. Taiwan built TSMC, a company that made chips for others. South Korea made Samsung bigger and better. The U.S. supported both. Why? Because they wanted alternatives to Japan. They wanted to break Japan's control. And it worked. By the 1990s, Japan had lost the lead. And by the 2000s, they were almost out of the race. It was a quiet defeat. No newspaper headlines, no loud protests. But Japan had fallen, and the world forgot them. Until one phone call from America to a Japanese legend, and the dream of a comeback was born again. Chapter 3. A strategic mistake. When Japan was on top, they believed they had the best system. And maybe, at that time, they did. But the world changed. And Japan didn't. While others adapted, Japan stayed the same. That was the mistake. Let's explain it simply. There are two ways to build a chip business. Option 1, do everything yourself. Design. Building cell. You control the whole process. This is called vertical integration. Option 2, focus on one part. Just design, or just manufacture. Not both. This is called specialization. Japan loved option 1. They wanted control, from start to finish. Companies like Toshiba and NEC followed this model. They made their own chips, in their own factories, for their own products. It worked well, until it didn't. The rest of the world changed strategy. They saw a better way. In the US, companies like NVIDIA and Qualcomm said, "Why build chips? Let's just design them." They became fabless chip designers. At the same time, Taiwan built huge factories. TSMC became the go-to company for making chips. It was cheaper, faster, smarter. One company designs, another company builds. Each one focuses on what they do best. Together, they win. But Japan? They were stuck. Big, slow, and proud. They didn't want to change. They didn't believe in partnerships. They didn't believe in outsourcing. By the time they noticed the shift, it was too late. The industry moved forward. Japan stayed behind. And soon, even their own chips were too old, too big, too slow. In 2020, the newest chip Japan could produce was 40 nanometers. But the world was already using 5 nanometers and going smaller. Imagine bringing a horse to a Formula One race. That's how far behind Japan had become. Still, the dream was not dead. In the shadows, some people in Japan were watching, learning, planning. And when the right moment came, they were ready to act. A phone call was coming. A plan was forming. And Japan was about to try. One more time. Chapter 4. The phone call that changed everything. It was the summer of 2020. The world was busy with a pandemic. People stayed home. Countries closed borders. Factories stopped working. But somewhere in Japan, a phone rang. Not just any phone. It was the phone of a man named Tetsuro Higashi. He was no ordinary man. He had worked in the chip industry for 42 years. He was the former CEO of Tokyo Electron, a Japanese tech giant. He thought his work was finished. He thought his time was over. But this call changed everything. On the line was a representative from IBM, the American tech legend. They said, "We need help. We want to make a new kind of chip, a ket nanometer chip, the most advanced in the world." IBM had already designed the chip, but they needed someone to build it. Not in South Korea, not in Taiwan, not even in the US. They wanted to make it in Japan. Higashi was shocked. "Why Japan?" he asked. IBM explained, "We want less risk. Taiwan is too close to China. South Korea is our competitor. We trust Japan." That trust felt like a second chance. Higashi didn't wait. He called his old friend Atsushi Koike, former president of Western Digital Japan. Together, they started to build a dream. They reached out to experts, engineers, professors, government officials. They all asked one question: can Japan come back? Koike believed the answer was yes. He went directly to the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He said, "This is not just a company. This is a national project. Like the Meiji Restoration, it can bring Japan back to the top." Abe listened. He agreed. He gave them the green light. And so, the real work began. They had the vision. They had the support. Now they needed a name. They called it Rapidus, a Latin word. It means fast, because Japan couldn't afford to move slow. This wasn't just about making chips. It was about hope, about honor, about showing the world that Japan still matters. From one simple phone call, a revolution had begun, and the world was finally watching Japan again. Chapter 5. The Birth of Rapidus. August 2022. Tokyo, Japan. A new company is born. Its name? Rapidus. Its mission? To bring Japan back to the top of the semiconductor world. But Rapidus is no ordinary startup. It is a national project. Behind it stands the Japanese government. Behind it stand the giants of Japanese industry: Toyota, Sony, NEC, SoftBank, Fujitsu, Denso, Kioxia, MUFG, 8 of the most powerful companies in Japan. All say, "We believe in Rapidus." The plan is bold, very bold. They don't want to start with old chips. They don't want to take small steps. They want to go straight to the future. 2 nanometer chips, the most advanced in the world. Even Taiwan's TSMC and South Korea's Samsung have not yet produced these chips commercially. Rapidus wants to be first in Japan, and one of the first in the world. But to do that, they need money. A lot of money. The Japanese government gives them over $6 billion and sets aside more in the next budget. They also plan new laws to support the company: loans, grants, tax breaks, everything to help Rapidus rise. This is not just business. It's strategy. It's security. Why? Because the world is changing, and the U.S. is watching China closely. Taiwan, home of TSMC, is in danger. If China takes it, the chip supply could collapse. So America says, let's help Japan build too. We need more options. Rapidus begins to move fast. They find land in Chitose, a city in Hokkaido, the cold, snowy north of Japan. It's quiet, clean, and perfect for building the factory of the future. Construction begins in September 2023. They plan to start test production by April 2025 and full commercial production by 2027. And this is no normal factory. The roof will be covered in grass. Solar power will run the whole building. It will be one of the greenest chip factories in the world. Clean tech, clean power, clean future. People call it Japan's comeback. Others call it a risky bet. But one thing is clear. The world is watching, and Japan is ready to fight. Chapter 6. Choosing the Battlefield. Rapidus had a dream, but every dream needs a home. So, they searched across all of Japan. Tokyo? Too crowded. Osaka? Too expensive. Kyoto? Too small. They needed space. They needed silence. They needed something special. And then they found it. Chitose, a quiet city in Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan. Clean air, cold weather, plenty of land, and peace. Perfect for building chips. In September 2023, Rapidus broke ground. A new factory began to rise. But this wasn't just any factory. It would be one of the most advanced in the world. And one of the greenest. The roof, covered in grass. The power, 100% renewable. Even the walls, designed to protect the environment. It looked like a stadium. But it was a battlefield. A battlefield of technology. What would this factory produce? Not smartphones, not TVs, not cars. It would produce something smaller, something smarter, something far more powerful. 2-nanometer chips. Tiny pieces of silicon. So small, you can't see them with your eyes, but inside them, billions of transistors, more power than early NASA computers. These chips are the future, and Rapidus wants to lead, but they need machines. Special machines. The most important one, a giant called EUV lithography machine. Only one company in the world makes it. ASML, from the Netherlands. Each machine costs over $180 million. Each one is as big as a truck, weighs as much as a whale. Japan had never owned one before, but now it was coming. In December 2024, the first EUV machine arrived. People celebrated like it was the Olympics. This was history. For the first time ever, Japan had the tools to make next-generation chips. More machines will arrive soon, and ASML even plans to build a service center in Chitose to help Rapidus and maybe other factories in the future. Everything is moving fast. Too fast, some say. But Rapidus has no time to waste. The global chip war is real, and Japan is now back in the arena. Chapter 7. Can Japan beat the giants? Let's be honest. The world of semiconductors is not a friendly game. It's not soft. It's not slow. It's war. And Japan is trying to enter that war again. But the battlefield has changed. Right now, one company leads the world. TSMC from Taiwan. They make over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. Yes, 90%. They are fast. They are cheap. They are trusted. Even Apple, Nvidia, AMD, all big tech giants, they depend on TSMC. Some people call TSMC a country inside a country. That's how powerful they are. Next comes Samsung from South Korea. They don't just make chips, they also make phones, TVs, and batteries. They are everywhere. And behind them, Intel in the US. Still strong, still dangerous, trying hard to come back. So, let's ask the big question. Can Japan, with Rapidus, beat these giants? The answer is, it won't be easy. Let's look at the facts. TSMC started making chips in 1987. They have decades of experience. They produce millions of chips every week. Rapidus started in 2022. They are building their first factory. They have made 0 chips so far. That's a big gap. And there's more. TSMC and Samsung have thousands of engineers, hundreds of suppliers, global customers, deep political support. Rapidus has potential. But potential is not enough. They are trying to jump from 40 nanometer chips, still used in cars and basic electronics, to 2 nanometer chips, the most advanced in history. That's like going from a bicycle to a spaceship. Some experts say this is too risky. Rapidus is skipping steps. They should start smaller. Others say this is the only way. If they start small, they'll stay small forever. And they might be right. In technology, waiting means losing. So Japan is going all in. But what about money? Building a chip factory is expensive. Very expensive. The Rapidus factory in Hokkaido, it needs over $6.5 billion just to start. And that's not the end. If they want to build a second factory, they'll need billions more. Is Japan ready to pay? So far, yes. The government is supporting. The companies are investing. Even the Japanese people are watching with pride. But if things go wrong, the cost could be massive. And then comes the biggest challenge of all. People. You can buy machines. You can build factories. But you cannot buy talent overnight. To make 2 nanometer chips, you need the best engineers, the smartest workers, the most careful hands. Japan doesn't have enough. So, what is Rapidus doing? They are sending 150 engineers to IBM's lab in New York. It's called the Albany Nanotech Center. There, they will learn, train, prepare. They are also opening an office in Silicon Valley, right next to the biggest tech mines on Earth. And in Belgium, they have partnered with IMEC, a top research group in semiconductors. Rapidus is building global connections, because winning this race alone is impossible. Still, many ask, will this be a success or just another dream? Nobody knows. But one thing is clear. The world needs more chip makers. The US wants to move production away from Taiwan. Europe is building too. China is racing to catch up. It's the perfect moment for Japan to return. Rapidus is not just a company. It is a symbol of Japan's past, and maybe its future. Chapter 8. Training for the Future. The machines are ready. The factory is rising. The money is flowing. But there is one thing missing. People. Skilled people. Smart people. People who understand how to create the world's most advanced chips. Without them, nothing will work. And Japan knows this. In the past, Japan had many great engineers. They helped build Toshiba. They helped create Sony. They were leaders. But that was a long time ago. Today, most of those engineers have retired. Many of the young ones moved abroad. Some went to the US, others work for TSMC in Taiwan or Samsung in Korea or big companies in Europe. They didn't stay in Japan. Why? Because for years, there were no big dreams in Japan's chip world. No projects, no future. But now, with Rapidus, things are changing. Japan is dreaming again. But to make the dream real, they must bring back their best minds. So, what's the plan? First, Rapidus made a bold move. They chose 150 engineers, young and talented. They sent them to New York to train at IBM's Albany Nanotech Center. This is no normal lab. It is one of the best in the world. Here, IBM created the 2-nanometer chip, a chip smaller than a virus, more powerful than anything before. In Albany, the engineers are learning how to work with EUV machines, how to control the tiny details of chip making, how to test chips with extreme precision, and how to work as a team, fast, flexible, focused. They are not just watching. They are building, making mistakes, and learning every day. But one lab is not enough. So Rapidus opened an office in Silicon Valley, the tech capital of the world. There, they can meet top experts, hire international talent, join global conversations. They want Japan to be part of the future, not a quiet observer, but a bold player. And there's more. Rapidus also joined hands with IMEC, a world-famous research center in Belgium. IMEC is like the brain of Europe's chip industry. It doesn't make chips. It designs the tools, the tests, the ideas. Working with IMEC gives Rapidus access to cutting-edge knowledge, new research every day. and a network of global partners. This is key, because building 2-nanometer chips isn't just about money or machines. It's about know-how, the secrets, the tiny tricks that only top scientists understand. But even with IBM, IMEC, and Silicon Valley, there is still a problem. Speed. Training engineers takes time. 3 years, 5 years, sometimes 10. Rapidus wants to start production in 2025 and full commercial production by 2027. That's very soon. Is it possible? Nobody knows. Some experts say, Japan is moving too fast. You can't create masters in 2 years. Others say, that's true, but at least Japan is trying. And it's not just engineers. They need technicians, factory workers, safety experts, quality testers, clean room specialists, AI and data scientists. Each person plays a role. Each one must be ready. So, what is Rapidus doing? They are working with universities in Japan, creating new programs, new scholarships, new labs. They are trying to make chip engineering cool again, something young people want to study, something they feel proud of. It's not just a job, it's a mission. And that's the real heart of this story. Rapidus is not just building chips, it's building hope. Hope that Japan can rise again. Hope that the next generation will not just watch, but lead. The machines are big. The money is huge. But in the end, people make the difference. Chapter 9, 2027. A Dream or a Gamble? The year is 2027. The world is watching. Cameras are ready. Eyes from America, China, Korea, and Taiwan are all looking at one place. Chitose, Japan. Why? Because this is the year. The year when Rapidus says it will begin commercial production of the world's most advanced chip, the 2-nanometer chip. A chip so small you can fit billions of transistors on your fingertip. But its importance? Massive. Let's stop and ask, will Japan really do it? Or is this just a dream? That is the question. Let's start with the dream. Everything looks perfect on paper. A new green mega factory in Hokkaido, billion-dollar support from the Japanese government partnerships with IBM and IMEC engineers trained in America, advanced machines from ASML in the Netherlands, support from Japanese giants like Toyota and Sony. It's like a national orchestra, everyone playing together. And the goal? Put Japan back on the map. After 30 years of silence, show the world Japan is not finished. But now, let's look at the other side. The risks, the doubts, the fear. Problem 1, the timeline. Most experts say starting a semiconductor factory takes 5 to 10 years. Even TSMC needed years to go from design to mass production. Rapidus is trying to do it in just 5 years, from zero. Is that possible? Maybe. But the pressure is extreme. One small delay, one machine that doesn't work, one team that isn't ready, and the whole plan could fall. Problem 2. The experience gap. TSMC has been making chips for over 35 years. They have thousands of engineers. They've made millions of chips. Rapidus? Still new, still learning. Even if they build the machines, even if they have the money, can they match the quality and efficiency of TSMC, Samsung, or Intel? No one knows. Problem 3. The market. Let's say Rapidus makes the chips. Who will buy them? Will Apple trust a new company? Will Tesla or Nvidia switch from Taiwan? Big companies don't change partners easily. They want proof. They want results. Rapidus must show that their chips are not just advanced, but also affordable, reliable, and safe. That's not easy. And finally, geopolitics. The U.S. supports Japan today. But what about tomorrow? What if Taiwan remains safe? What if the U.S. focuses more on its own factories? Will Rapidus still get help? Or will it be left alone? These are real questions. So, dream or gamble? Let's be honest, it's both. Rapidus is a big dream, maybe the biggest tech dream Japan has had in decades. But it's also a huge gamble. Billions of dollars, years of time, hundreds of jobs, and the pride of a nation. All of it. On one goal: make Japan great in chips again. Still, even if Rapidus fails, it may not be a total loss. Because it has already brought engineers back to Japan, started new university programs, created global partnerships, reminded the world of Japan's tech power. It has already changed the story. From Japan is finished to Japan is trying again. And who knows? Maybe in 2027, we'll see the first Japanese 2-nanometer chip roll out of that green factory in Chitose. And when that happens, maybe a young engineer will hold it in his hand, look up, and smile. Because he'll know. This is not just a chip. This is our future.